Just good. Okay, you ready? We'll reconvene into open session. Certification of resolution of compliance, please.
Madam Chair, I move that the closed meeting was conducted in conformity with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as required by Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia, and certify that only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements were discussed, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Vote, please. Okay, motion carried. I want to welcome everyone to our June school board meeting. This is the last meeting of the 2020-21 school year. What a roller coaster ride this year has been, but I think I can speak for the entire board in saying how pleased we are of the accomplishments made in spite of the unprecedented challenges. Okay, next on the agenda, I would like for Ms. Tynes to open us up with the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. Play for their entry. Unfortunately, the VHSL did not give out Best Actor awards at the region level, and state level awards went to first and second place players. Regardless, the team had an amazing season despite all the obstacles this year. So at this time, when I call your name, if you're here, please come forward to receive your certificate and pin. Leah Carroll. Caitlin Carter. Rylan Ferry. Maggie Minardi. Ethan Phelps. Caitlin Pippins. John Post. Charles Ricks. Natalie Spain. Jackson Spivey. The team is coached by Ginger Beatty Riffle, and I believe Miss Riffle's with us. So at this time, we'd like to once again congratulate the Windsor High School drama team for another outstanding season and success at the region and state level. Congratulations. Now we're moving to Smithville High School. The Center for Advancement of Sustainable Energy, also known as CASE, at James Madison University held a virtual Kid Win competition this year. The competition engages students in STEM through a hands-on engineering design competition that gets them excited about renewable energy and teaches them about solar and wind energy. The student competitors worked to construct small wind turbines or solar devices that they tested and then presented to a panel of judges. The Kid Win Challenge this year included 65 total participants. 3 Smithville High teams competed in the Wind Energy Challenge. Placing third was the Pandemic Packers team, composed of 2 Engineering 3 students, both juniors, Dylan Smith and Sean Klein, and unfortunately they are not able to be with us tonight, but I think, there we go. So there's a picture of them working on their entry for the competition. Placing second was the Flying Packers team with sophomore Lindsay Greer. Lindsay completed both Engineering 1 and the Manufacturing 1 courses. The turbine for this device featured a pulley system and blades fabricated from PVC pipe. Both teams qualify for national competition, which will be held virtually Monday, June 7th through 10th, so held June 7th through 10th. Teams will submit data on their turbines and recorded presentations, and they will participate in a wind energy quiz and compete in an instant challenge sent to the schools by the National Kid Win organizers. Mr. Adam Shipman coached the Wind Energy Challenge team. So Mr. Shipman, if you would come up at this time. And as he's coming up, I'm going to move on to the other category, which was solar. Smithville High submitted 8 solar projects in the competition. Placing third was Aiden Henry, an 11th grade Engineering 3 student. Aiden enjoys culinary arts, and he decided to create a device that could stir or blend a drink using solar energy. Pretty interesting. Aiden constructed a solar array that could power a repurposed computer cooling fan. The fan spun a set of magnets that made the magnet in the drink spin, ultimately stirring the drink. That's impressive. And first place, Dominic Prevette, a senior Engineering 3 student, won first place with the solar water wheel creation. Dominic is also unable to be here tonight, but Dominic wanted to address the problem of ocean litter and trash, so he made a prototype of a device that could be used in the middle of the ocean to remove trash out of the water. How does it work? A solar-powered pump spins the water wheel. The water wheel spins a conveyor belt that picks up floating trash from the surface of the ocean. The water wheel invention was also selected for the Dream Big Award. In addition, Christopher Hall, a junior in Engineering 3, was announced as the winner of the Circuit Master Award. The judges thought that Christopher's design for a solar-powered charger was very efficient and showcased a clean design. He was commended by the judges for his presentation and the layout of the components he used in his device. Heather Greer coached the Solar Energy Challenge teams, and I think Ms. Greer is with us tonight. Ms. Greer, if you can come on down. And June is a very, very busy time of year for our students, especially our high school students. So we understand that they're not able to be here tonight. You can find all of their names in our Isle of Wight Achiever script, which is posted with our board agenda. In addition, there are links to the Kid Win projects and the videos. You see screen grabs of the videos. So if you want to learn more about these projects, you can go look at the Achiever script and click on the link and see the students' presentation that they use for the competition. And we want to congratulate all of them as Ms. Carr said, in a difficult year, they made incredible strides. So congratulations, and Mr. Elliott will go. Next, we want to recognize several of our students who will be taking their skills and certifications from our CTE programs and transitioning to careers in their areas of expertise upon graduating from high school. First, from our welding program, We have Matthew Bowman, and Matthew's not able to be with us tonight, but he will be joining Eastern Metal Corporation. Ethan Bates, I believe Ethan is here. Ethan will be employed with AIT Marine. And next we have Sawyer Cook. Sawyer has accepted an offer from Steel Tech Industrial Fabrication. We have Elaine Robinson with us tonight from Steel Tech, who will be joining Sawyer up front. Gavin Sorrell will start his career with Master Machine and Tool. Representing Gavin tonight, our oldest student, Mr. Pike, the welding instructor. Sorry, he said he would fill in. But from Master Machine and Tool, we have David Revere and Dustin Brown. From Culinary Arts, Jacob Bryant, I'm not sure if Jacob's with us tonight, will be joining the Foxtail Wine Bar, where he will continue his career in the food and hospitality industry. And from engineering, Jonathan Major is joining Amstead Rail. I know Jonathan's right behind me. And we were told his signing package includes stock options with the company. And I'm not sure, Betsy Odell from Virginia Federation for Advanced Manufacturing Education was going to be with us tonight. Hi, Betsy, come on. Because Betsy facilitated Chris's job placement. We want to congratulate all of these students and thank the employers for providing our students with these wonderful career opportunities. And we're going to get a photo of all of you. Mr. Elliott's going to come down here really quick. We want to congratulate them again. And I'll just add a comment. A couple of our programs like nurse aid and cosmetology, their testing dates got pushed back until after school ends due to things this year with COVID. So we will have more students who will be placed, but they just weren't able to get their certifications complete because of how the testing dates changed. But we congratulate the students, and we thank those businesses once again who were able to be with us tonight. We have some additional businesses we'd also like to recognize. The Virginia School Board Association does something called a VSBA Business Honor Roll. Businesses large and small, corporate-owned or family-run, play a key role in supporting our communities and local schools. They contribute to our school division in many ways, including helping schools with in-kind or financial contributions, donating to scholarship programs, supporting extracurricular activities, offering internship opportunities, volunteering in the schools, and sponsoring field trips. This type of support is invaluable. The Virginia School Boards Association acknowledges deserving businesses by including them in the annual VSBA Business Honor Roll. School divisions are invited to nominate businesses as a way to say thank you for their contribution and support to public education. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, we were not able to recognize our nominees from the 2019-2020 school year at a board meeting. So tonight we are including those businesses along with our 2021 nominee. First, our 2021 nominee. Unfortunately, they were not able to have a representative with us tonight, but we want to acknowledge them. Ferguson and their philanthropic arm, Ferguson Cares, through a generous donation of $25,000, to the Isle of Wight County School Building Trades Program. Students will be able to rehabilitate homes for those in need while rebuilding the career pipeline of skilled trades professionals. The program has completed smaller projects for residents of the community. This donation will support home improvements on a larger scale completed by students in the division's Building Trades Program. And we thank Ferguson, and we hope to get a representative out here, and we will make sure we include them at a future board meeting. From last year, one of our honorees is Farmer Service, now Farmer Service Ace Hardware, and with us tonight we have manager Gordon Holloway. Farmer Service has been an outstanding supporter of Isle of Wight County Schools and a generous neighbor to Westside Elementary. The business, located across the street from the Westside Playground, has partnered with the school on numerous outdoor projects through their donations of soil, mulch, plants, and the manpower to deliver, unload, and distribute those materials when and where needed. We thank them for partnering with the division and supporting the students and teachers of Westside Elementary. Congratulations, and just stay up here, we've got one more. Next is Southeast Connections, Noel Travis. Southeast Connections construct, maintain, and repair natural gas pipelines and stations. Representatives from Southeast Connections held an information day for students in the building trades and agriculture programs at the Land Lab. The company demonstrated the machinery used in the field and provided hands-on learning opportunities for students. They also discussed skills and certifications required for various careers with the company. We want to thank all of our businesses that we've recognized tonight for your support of Isle of Wight County Schools. And at this time, we'd like to get a picture of you two gentlemen. Now we have a special recognition. Tonight, we would like to honor Deputy Patricia Gwaltney, and I'm going to ask Ms. Gwaltney to come forward, please.
You are looking mighty fine.
Yes, an angel. Deputy Gwaltney, who retired in May from the Isle of Wight County Sheriff's Office with 20 years of service, where most of her years were spent as a school resource officer at many of the schools throughout the division. Her last stop was Windsor High School. If you ever visited one of her schools, then you know Deputy Gwaltney. She was a welcoming sight to students, staff, parents, and community members. A post on the Isle of Wight County Sheriff's Office Facebook page about her retirement had, when I wrote this, had over 300 comments and 200 shares. That's pretty impressive. We have a plaque for her that reads, Isle of Wight County Schools recognizes Deputy Patricia Gwaltney for many years of dedicated service to the students and staff of Isle of Wight County Schools. Congratulations on your retirement. While we are sad to part ways with Deputy Gwaltney, we are excited for her to move into the next phase of her life. There's a quote that seems very fitting as we say our goodbyes to her. I don't know if I've been changed for the better, but because I knew you, I have been changed for good. We love you and wish you well. Just curious, raise your hand if you've met Ms. Gwaltney before. There you go. There you are. Hopefully it was under good circumstances. So. At this time, do we have a recognition from SSC?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Kenny Gray. I'll turn it over to Mr. Kenny Gray for the SSC Employee of the Month.
That's a real tough act to follow, Ms. Gwaltney. Hello, everyone. Today I have the opportunity to share with you, I've been here about 4 years. Ms. Francine's been here for 18. We were arguing back and forth over her start date. She's been here so long. So she said 2003, and she said, wait a minute, maybe 2005. I said, well, I was graduating high school then, so don't feel too bad. Literally, when I first started, she hopped in my truck and said, you're going to make it here, you got to ride with me. And she has been riding with me ever since. She is the glue. She is the mama, the grandmama, the banker, the counselor, and she really takes hold of her employees. They're not mine. The custodians that belong to Francine. Everyone in here, if you've been in the hallways, you've seen Francine. And I wish I could say more and stand here and give you more, but you are the employee of the month, in my eyes, employee of the year. We hope you continue your success here. She has been promoted to operational supervisor, and we're trying to move her into a manager role. I'm gonna throw that in there. She's telling me no. But I appreciate you. To your family that's here, thank you for sacrificing her. We appreciate for you and her. Thanks for supporting her. I know you are in your new role with your grandbaby, and we appreciate you for what you're doing. So again, thank you. Congratulations.
Not yet. Sorry. Back up. Okay, at this time, still underachievers, we have a special presentation. We have selected a new school board liaison from Windsor High School. As you know, Leah is graduating. And with us tonight is our new liaison, and if she will come forward, her name is Kylie Sharp. Kylie, you can come on down here. Just to introduce Kylie, Kylie is a sophomore at Windsor High School and resides in the Carsville district. Yep. She is a member of the Beta Club and played both basketball and volleyball for the Dukes. She is also a current member of the Carsville Ruritan Club. She's a very active young lady. We congratulate Kylie and look forward to having her on the board representing Windsor High for the next 2 years. So congratulations, Kylie. And Ms. Elliott, you want to leave the basketball? We'll take a picture, okay? Okay, now it's time for this one. Let me get my paper straight. Okay. At this time, we would like to recognize our outgoing Windsor High School liaison, Leah Carroll. We have a resolution of appreciation that requires a vote. Before I read the resolution, I know her other liaison, her colleague Neely from Smith Hill High School, would like to make a few comments. So Neely, I turn the floor over to you.
Yes, I would just like to thank Leah for everything that she's done for students in our county these past 2 years, and for taking me under her wing and showing me the ropes of this position, because it's not something easy to do. And I'd also like to say congratulations to her, and I know that we're all excited to see all the amazing things she's going to do at UVA.
Thank you, Neely. At this time, I'll read the resolution so we can vote. After the vote, we'd like to have the board members come down on the floor and have Leah join us. She's in the audience tonight. She's going to join us for a photo, and we have a little presentation for her. So the resolution says, whereas Leah Carroll has served with distinction as a student liaison member of the School Board of Isle of Wight County during the 2019, 2020, and 2020-2021 school years, and whereas Leah has served with commendation as the student liaison to the Isle of Wight County School Board, and whereas Leah has fulfilled the duties of a student liaison representative with dedication and eminence and brought honor to herself, her family, Windsor High School, and the Isle of Wight County School Board, and whereas during Leah's tenure she studied the issues and came to each meeting prepared to provide input, and whereas Leah has been an energetic and essential part of the Isle of Wight County School Board, and whereas Leah's term as student liaison to the School Board of Isle of Wight County ends on June 30th, 2021, now therefore be it resolved that the Isle of Wight County School Board wishes to publicly thank Leah for her service for the past 2 years, and be it further resolved that the Isle of Wight County School Board extends its best wishes as Leah prepares for her future, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to Leah and a copy be spread in the minutes of the Isle of Wight County School Board meeting of June 10th, 2021.
So, I make a motion to approve that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made. Vote, please.
Are we all good with the vote?
It passed, yeah, you can't see.
Okay.
Picture.
All right.
Yeah.
Board members, Neely, Dr. Thornton, and Tracy, if you want to join, please come down on the floor in the front. Leah, would you please join us up front as well? Normally, Leah would be right up here on the stage at her seat, but tomorrow's a big day for Leah as it's graduation. So I think we can all understand why she is bidding adieu at this point.
And isn't she the salutatorian?
And she's the salutatorian.
Just thought I'd drop that.
Yeah. So, and a Jefferson Scholar at UVA with a full ride.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So, and I know you're tired of hearing from me, but I have to say, in all the years I've been working with the board, each year I'm thinking, wow, this is a great liaison, this is a great liaison. Leah has really taken this to another level. And Neely is following right in her footsteps, and Kylie, it's just amazing. And Leah, I get a little bit of goosebumps thinking about that. So you have made a tremendous contribution to the board and to the liaison position that will continue for many, many years to come. So thank you from me personally. With that, that's going to conclude Achievers and Special Presentations. Thank you to all who came tonight to support our Achievers, and have a wonderful evening.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is request to speak.
In accordance to policy BDDH-E, citizens scheduled on the agenda to speak will be permitted 5 minutes maximum time for their presentation. Delegations will be requested to limit their speakers to 2. Persons speaking are asked to be specific, state the issues for the board's consideration, and attach a copy of your prepared remarks. If you have prepared remarks, they should be given to the board clerk. Please do not approach the board members. The school board requests that speakers refrain from making references to specific individuals and that any matter related to specific students or individuals be discussed in a closed meeting. The first person on our list is Miss Minette Brooks.
School board members, Dr. Thornton. As you know, the Virginia Department of Education has implemented Governor Northam's Ed Equity VA initiative. I became aware of it about 3 months ago through a friend, and have spent many hours researching it and its implications for schools, teachers, and students. I would like to share with you a little bit of what I've learned, because you are the gatekeepers who must have the courage to protect our students from harm, even if it comes from the very powerful Virginia Department of Education. I need to know that you know what I have learned. The Ed Equity VA initiative starts with the presumption that systemic racism and white supremacy are rampant in our schools and is responsible for the gaps in achievement by marginalized students, such as Black, Hispanic, Latinx, LGBTQ+, and non-English speaking students, to name a few. As a retired educator who worked for 29 years in Virginia schools, 19 of them in Wight County, I say I know this is not true. Teachers work hard every day to make sure all students are successful, irrespective of their race. That is what they do. I saw this over and over again. Can you find racism and white supremacy somewhere in Virginia schools? Probably. Is it rampant and pervasive? No. Do we need draconian measures in our schools to eradicate it? Absolutely not. This initiative further proclaims that the achievement gaps of marginalized students can only be mitigated if we strive for equity, not equality, and that everything done in schools must be seen through the lens of equity. So what is the difference between equity and equality, and why is it a cause for concern? The Wall Street Journal said it best: equality means equal treatment, unbiased competition, and impartially judged outcomes. Equity means equal outcomes, achieved, if necessary, by unequal treatment, biased competition, and preferential judging. To truly promote equity as an educator, you must be anti-racist. There is an official VA DOE document on their website entitled Anti-Racism in Education. It is fascinating reading. It states that anti-racism requires acknowledging that racist beliefs and structures are pervasive in education and actively doing work to tear down those beliefs and structures. So, it's not good enough to say that you are not racist. You must actively admit that you're biased. And if you're a white teacher or student, you must admit that you have benefited from white supremacy all your life, then be educated on your biases so you can do better. This includes all students, from kindergarten through high school. I believe this initiative seeks to make white children feel as if they are oppressors and present black children and other minorities as victims. I don't believe it is the way to make children feel empowered or that they can be smart and successful no matter what. It is putting children in the crosshairs of activism. The Ed Equity VA initiative is already embedded in Wight County Schools. We have a director of equity, diversity, and inclusion. She has already trained administrators. and would be training teachers next. Her mandate is to educate students and the community. What specifically will she be teaching our students? I understand it is not part of the curriculum. We also have a student-initiated equity club at Windsor High School. What is its purpose? What activities is it involved in the school? I wish I had time to delve into all of my many concerns, but that is a topic for another day. As school board members, it is your job to see that students are educated, not indoctrinated. My hope is that you will delve deeply into the Equity VA documents, including the document Anti-Racism in Education. You should also delve into the recently adopted edits to the History and Social Science Standards of Learning, which embeds tenets of the 1619 project into our U.S. history curriculum. Finally, be sure to look into the new and intrusive Virginia Social Emotional Learning Standards, which will probably curl your toes. To conclude, equity and anti-racism will not solve achievement gaps. All students come to school with a melting pot of issues that affect their learning and that must be taken into account when planning how to best educate that child. Also, no student or teacher needs to feel ashamed of their race or culture. Schools should not be focusing on teaching students how to read. Schools should be focusing on teaching children how to read, write, do math, and understand science. We need to be preparing them for a successful future, not focusing on what divides us. I would like to end with a quote by Joseph Stalin. Education is a weapon whose effects depend on who holds it in his hands and at whom it is aimed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks.
Okay, next we have Ms. Candace Vanderbrake. Sorry.
Hey, how are y'all doing? So I also came to talk about the equity inclusion that y'all have online and the videos that's been posted on Facebook. I was wondering if anybody can define the word bias, because bias is the prejudice in favor or against one thing, person, or group compared to another, usually in a way to be unfair. Definition is from Oxford Languages. Dr. Thornton states that we all have biases in his videos on the Wight County School Facebook page. Please tell me one bias that you have discovered that you have. What is the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment of the Constitution? According to Cornell Law School, it states that the government is prohibited from favoring one religion over another or favoring religion over non-religion. Why is the word religion found in the equity training PowerPoints that I received in response to the FOIA request 15 times? Why does one of the PowerPoints have an angel with the words gender expression, gender identity, sexual orientation, and gender roles on it? It states 3 times in Dr. Thornton's videos on Wight County Schools Facebook page that equity will intersect with K-12 education, correct? In the PowerPoints I received from the equity training at Wight County School, educational equity is defined as moral and civil rights obligated to ensure students are provided the tools they need to succeed. Whose morals are determining this obligation? Can you define privilege? According to Oxford Language, it is a special right or advantage or immunity granted or available to a particular person or group. Can you explain the PowerPoint, privilege to bias, where under privilege are bubbles with the words white, heterosexual, cisgender, which is person's identity matches their birth sex, and under bias are the words BIPOC, which is person of color, LGBTQIA, transgender, gender fluid. Let me remind you that sitting on the school board is a privilege made by the people and for the people. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't get the last name, but I got the first. Miss Candace is what I'll call you. Is that okay? Thank you, Miss Candace.
Next, we have Ms. Heidi Schwartz.
Heidi Schwartz. I live on Longview, Windsor-Smithfield line. I'm here to talk about the critical race theory. First, I'd like to ask who decided that the County of Wight needed a critical race theory coordinator at the cost of $80,000 and viewed that Wight school system of having a racial issue, especially during a pandemic when the students haven't even been in a person setting for most of the school year for the past year. Was there a study performed to back this need up? Was there a question or survey involving teachers, students, parents? I never received or partook of one. 2021 school year reports between 9 public schools serving 5,474 students, Wight schools diversity. There's American Indians, 21, Asian, 72, Hispanic, 194 students, Black, 1,473, Hawaiian, under 1%, 2 or more races, under 0.5%, and white, there's 3,433 students. With these numbers, when and who decides what color is and when critical race theory is in play? Color becomes a tricky thing sometimes. For instance, my daughter-in-law has some Puerto Rican in her, so where do we classify her in critical race theory? Until critical race theory was entered into our language, we didn't. Why would we? Of these 3,433 white, now called privileged students by the PowerPoint presentation from the foyer that's been provided, do we know how many of these are in high school and middle school and may actually be entering into their sexual world, and those numbers understood their sexual preferences? And if they are white and heterosexual, why are they listed as privileged? Since when is heterosexual classified as privileged? And who in the school administrator decides when it will be okay to discuss or have a conversation with a student regarding critical race theory for whatever reason? Do the parents get notified when this happens? I'm not okay with the school or anyone having these types of conversations with my child. That's an at-a-home discussion. Wight Schools has a current graduation rate at 93%. The state average is 88%. The teacher-to-student ratio is 16:1, and the state is 15:1. The math scores are charted at 76%, with the state at 72%. Reading is at an 82%, and the state is at 80%. Wight is succeeding at an above average in the state, a reason many of us have flocked here. Yet in the video on May 6th by the superintendent and this Facebook posted, stated that they are doing the equity work to ensure that every student will be successful. How is teaching this critical race theory that white heterosexual students are privileged giving my student better education to succeed? What happens when a teacher, administrator, aide, or etc., whose personal beliefs do not support or align with critical race theory? Are they allowed to exempt out of the training that you will be providing, or will they have to leave their job? Will we lose fantastic Wight school employees that may wish to stick to their personal beliefs or their personal religious beliefs over this far left reach? I see in the training PowerPoint that religion is brought up several times. Isn't that supposed to be kept separate from schools? It's a dangerous line when prayer is supposed to be kept out of schools, but religion is somehow brought up in the critical race theory, what appears to be in a negative form. And then when we have a school personnel that believes in critical race theory and may try to influence our children, what do we do then? Are we allowed to be involved? Schools have 3 pillars of education: curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Politics should not be discussed in school unless it's in a class designed, but critical race theory is now going to be bringing that into it. That's no one's business at home but ours. I encourage you to continue on a path and focus spending and training that teachers are teachers of education and not critical race theory. I could care less if my child's teacher dressed in a tutu with green hair and loved the same gender. If they could reach my child and teach them math or English and keep personal views and preferences at the door, that's okay by me. We need to get back to educating our children, the 1, 2s, and 3s, and ABCs, and keep parenting to the parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schwartz.
Okay, next we have Ms. Jennifer Boykins.
First, I want to address something Dr. Thornton said at the Southern and Central Alawite Citizens Group. He said that he had some white teachers that came to him and said, "We're scared." And your response, Dr. Thornton, was why? You are a white teacher in a predominantly white county. What are you afraid of? For someone who claims they are promoting inclusion and wants everybody to be equal, do you think you may have hurt those teachers that came to you with what they felt was a legitimate concern to them? Why would we make any teacher feel like their emotions, concerns, feelings are less than someone else's or not important because they are white? Isn't that racist? Second, I want to address something Ms. Kiana Jones said at the Board of Supervisors work session last week. She said she wanted kids to be able to walk down the hall and see pictures of themselves hanging on the wall. I agree. There is nothing wrong with that. I have a problem with some of the names she mentioned she wanted to see hanging on those walls. William Du Bois and Langston Hughes. William Du Bois was a socialist. Langston Hughes was a communist. There are too many great black people in history that we can honor and educate our kids with that are not communist and socialist. Like Sarah Breedlove, AKA Madam C.J. Walker. She was the first freeborn in her family, orphaned at age 7. She became the first self-made female millionaire in America when she started selling her own handmade hair care products door to door. She was black, and she always credited her success to hard work. Ms. Jones also stated she is getting her master's in restorative teaching, also known as restorative justice. Restorative justice brings the victim and the perpetrator, families and communities together to have a dialogue that aims to build understanding and develop agreements to make things right so there is justice for all. Per one website, it has 3 shifts. The first shift is to acknowledge that troublesome behavior is normal. I can't even comment on that because it is so absurd. Now we have to justify and normalize bad behavior. The second shift is doing away with authority figures. Now we have to have a convener or facilitator so we can sit in a circle. And yes, that's what this teaching recommends, and talk about having empathy. The third shift is to move the focus of responsibility for the well-being of the community, including the offender, not necessarily the victim, from experts like counselors and doctors to the community itself. I have not exaggerated this. This is on several different websites. It seems the goal of this teaching is to make the victim feel sorry for the attacker and everyone walks away without any consequences. Basically, no one is responsible for their actions and their bad behavior is not their fault. Now I want to talk about the book, The Crossover. It was required reading for all of Georgie Tyler. This book is described online, and I quote, about an African-American family living in a rich neighborhood in the suburbs of Boston. This book happens in the present, about 2014, during the fall basketball season, when this family is succeeding during the Obama era, end quote. Now, if this was not a political book, its description would have had a period behind basketball season. This book was paired with an activity that involved poetry by Tupac Shakur that was actually used according to parents. Tupac's mother, father, stepfather, godfather were all high-ranking Black Panthers in the Black Liberation Army. His stepfather spent 4 years on the FBI's most wanted fugitive list and was finally arrested and convicted of armed robbery of a Brinks armored truck in which police officers and a security guard were killed. Tupac himself served 8 months of an 18-month prison sentence for rape. The majority of his lyrics include him using the N-word. Many of his songs have lyrics such as F the police, F the FBI, the CIA, and white people. And I'm sure you know what F stands for. You say politics isn't brought into the school system. Why was $1,995 spent in May on curriculum from Breathe for Change? This company's website clearly states it is for social-emotional learning, among other things, for family, schools, and organizations. Part of its transformation of community is called Breathe for Social Justice. Per the website, they are proud to offer the world's only 200-hour social-emotional learning training for teachers and community leaders inspired to use wellness as a vehicle for social change. If the phrase "to use wellness as a vehicle for social change" doesn't sound any alarm, nothing will. This is how CRT and other propaganda will be allowed to infiltrate and indoctrinate It's all about wording and presentation. You, school board,
Time.
and Dr. Thornton, now Ms. Jones, want equity. Explain to me how that factors into reading, writing, and arithmetic. Why are we so focused on who's black,
Time
who's
is
brown,
up.
and who's white? When you constantly point out color, color becomes the only thing we see. That breeds racism and division, and our kids deserve better, and so do our tax dollars. Martin Luther King Jr. most assuredly said it best. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. Everything you are forcing into this school system is
Ma'am,
and will do the exact
thank
opposite.
you.
Is this your agenda? Because it looks like it.
Thank you, Ms. Boykins.
Next, Mr. Ed Easter.
Good evening, Ed Easter, 12224 Hideaway Lane, Carrollton, Virginia. Thanks for permitting me to speak. I'm glad to be here after being out for a while. I'm responding to an article in the letter to the editor in Smithfield Times on January the 2nd regarding closed session. All right, thanks. But that closed session got started under Dr. Pereira and a completely different board in this school system. And the way it got started, because at that time I attended every school board meeting every month. I was told one evening when I walked in about 4:45 that, oh, by the way, we didn't announce it, but we're holding closed sessions from 5 to 6 from now on. The writer of the letter to the editor was a member of the board at that time. There was no gripes, grumbles, or anything else about the way it was done or how it was done and what it did to dumb down the citizens at the time. I'm here to tell you this board has accomplished more in the period of time that we've been here and this superintendent than any board or any superintendent has ever accomplished prior to this time. The financial management, the physical management of the facilities, the cleanliness of the facilities, the upkeep of them has been outstanding. We've implemented a CTE program that is outstanding compared to what we were paying $1 million a year for the 60 students. So accomplishments are good. Anybody that wants to sit down and compare past boards, I'd be willing to get with you anytime you want to, anywhere you want to, and we'll go through the history of the school system if you like. At the same time, the gentleman that wrote that letter to the editor suggests that this board be replaced and asked the citizens of Connerville to throw out Ms. Carr. Well, Ms. Carr, please don't let them force you to leave this board because you're doing an outstanding job. There are things that occurred in this system that have had an effect on it. But you board members have not been the creation of that. It occurred well before you did. Not a member on this board has ever been sued by the superintendent, not one. This board works well with the Board of Supervisors in this county. Financially, we've had the lowest raise in cost for our school system than we've ever had over a 3-year period. Not one member of this board has had to resign because of racist emails that were sent out on the internet. I would say, I want this board to stay. I want you to keep doing the fine job you're doing. And anything I can do to help you, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Easter.
Okay, next we have, it's Jason Mesher?
Marsh.
Marsh, sorry. Marsh.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So my name is Jason Marsh, and I'm one of the many concerned parents in Isle of Wight. I've done a great deal of research on the Virginia Department of Education's Equity Initiative, Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative. I've looked at countless source documents made available on the Virginia Department of Education website. I researched and studied the critical race theory. I've studied the definitions of social justice, anti-racism, white privilege, white fragility, marginalized, and countless other adjectives and isms that are seemingly tossed around regularly to promote this effort to remove racism. I've even discussed this in detail with some members of your school administration. My efforts have led me to this conclusion. This ideology is based on Marxism. This ideology is socialism. This ideology is contradictory to the civil rights movements of the 1960s and the progresses that this country has made. Yes, we've got room to grow. But this ideology is divisive in nature, and it is, in fact, the very racism that it claims to remove. Now, surely we can all agree that racism is bad. And surely we can all agree that it exists. But telling a child that he or she cannot succeed, has not succeeded, or that he or she must sacrifice their privilege based on the color of their skin is not the answer. We can do better, and we must. Now, I attended the Windsor Town Center on May 19th when Dr. Thornton claimed that it was ridiculous to think that Isle of Wight would adopt the critical race theory because there was no curriculum. Well, I agree. There is no curriculum. But I want you to know, Doctor, that I found that statement to be misleading, disingenuous, and personally insulting. And I am not alone. Forcing teachers to read books about their inherent racism, biases, and privilege because of the skin color is hurtful at best. Categorizing this required reading as professional development is, in my opinion, shameful. I am certain that teacher morale is at an all-time low, and these men and women deserve better. Cloaking this ideology in palatable language will only go so far. I, for one, see right through it. Promoting courageous conversations, Mrs. Carr, is most definitely promoting a component of the critical race theory. The real courageous conversation requires standing up and fighting against teaching racial division and socialism to our kids. I encourage you all to do your own research if you have not already, and I request you consider my words as you continue to work to implement the requirements and the suggestions from the Department of Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marsh.
Next, we have Mr. Michael Uzzle.
Oh, yeah, I can see it outside.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
Once again, I come to bring you some good trouble.
Mr. Uzzle, can you speak up in the mic, please? I can't hear you. The rain is having something.
Can you hear me now?
Just, okay.
All right? Oh, got me now, okay. It takes some time, it takes a while. Anyway, good evening, board members. Once again, I come to bring you some good troubles. This might be old, but last month we had a board meeting that the parents came up and said something about graduation problems that we're having at the school. I just want to acknowledge that I hope that y'all to solve that for our graduating students. And that's all the concern, that's all. When they brought it up and said that they were having graduation problems, I kind of take a like to try to make y'all sure y'all correct that. To help them out the best way you can. I know things are tight, but do your best. That's all I'm responding to. Remember some time back, I say, we are not watching what y'all are saying, we're watching what y'all are doing. So that means that we all will make mistakes, but we're trying to make sure that everybody have a fair chance of what each other is doing and respect them. Now I'm gonna go to something else here. I know that we all, the whole school, all our school system has some type of security. From the schools, central office, the technology, and saying this, that if we, I know I'm working on some projects, if we need to pull a video of something that's going on in our school system, there shouldn't be no problem. Ms. Carr and Ms. Times, it had been a delay on some things that we was trying to get back on with y'all, and we will get back on it to solve these issues. But believe me, school system, somebody in the school system knows about it. I can guarantee you that, because it's been going on too long. Now, if they don't, that's why we asked to put a video, if there's a video available. But like I said, all our schools, central office, technology, bus garage should have some type of security. So if we need to, we will have to pull that to prove to you what we are saying, along with what we got. So that's the one to let you know that. So it won't be nobody coming up to y'all saying, to be excused, we did not know. Because this will not happen. It's too much we have and too much is being seen that somebody actually don't know nothing about it. I just want to bring that to you and let you know that I know the school time is ending for the year, but there's still a lot of work to be done. I'm just here to try to help. I'm not here to tear this school system down whatsoever. Y'all know me by now. But when it's concerned issues that are going on that we feel like you need to pay attention to, and they gave it to me, I'm gonna bring it to y'all. And sometimes I try to get them to call central office and send it to them. And so they're gonna talk to whoever the representative is. But believe me, hopefully we can solve this when we had this meeting. If not, we're gonna pass this on to someone else who will look at this from the beginning. And remember, I had closed sessions on this, time after time. And every last one of y'all was there, besides Ms. Time. So this has been going on for a while, and we want to wrap it up and hold all those accountable for what's been going on here. I'm not standing up here to say it's not, but it is. I got documents, I got notes, and I got every conversation that we had in closed session. Who said what when and said that what they will do. And as of this day, ain't nothing been done.
1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Uzzle. Next.
Okay, and now we have Mr. Reverend Willie Williams.
Good evening, Madam Chair and school board members. As you know, I'm an advocate of the Equity and Inclusion program. And I'm happy to see that it is working like it's supposed to. One thing about the Equity and Inclusion program, it demands a change. And I don't know how familiar you are with change management, but Dr. Kirk Lewin wrote a theory about change. And he said whenever a change is introduced, you're going to have a force for change, and you're going to have a force to resist change. And I'm happy to see that we got some speakers tonight that are against change. And I'm happy to see that they are against change, because that tells me that the program is working. You see, what I see in what they have said is the fact that change demands a loss. You got to give up something to get something new. And we don't lack loss, because whenever we are threatened with a loss, it sends us to a grievance process. And the first step in the grievance process is denial. Hear what everybody has said tonight that speaks out against the equity and inclusion program, and I'm sure you'll come to the conclusion that they're in denial. They're denying that there is a need for equity and inclusion. And this is to be expected. But now watch the second step that comes in the grievance process, and that is fear. And fear can act itself out in many different ways. Most often, it comes through in anger. And some of the people are already displaying anger. They're doing it through texting and emailing and making threats on you. And I know they've made threats on you. Some of them have made threats on me. But it's okay, because as long as they don't make a physical threat, because if they make a physical threat, then I'm going to report them to the police department and let them handle that. And I suggest the same thing to you. Keep on keeping on with the equity and inclusion program. And if anyone makes a threat on you, if it's a physical threat, report it to the police department. Obviously, the people that make these threats have not gone through the Wight County public school system. Because if they did, they'll know how to respect the rights of others. Thank you for your night.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
That's it.
That's all?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is the board member committee reports and information. Do you have anything?
Madam
Did you have any-
Chair, last month we had the SEAC meeting as usual, and
You need to talk in the mic.
Oh,
I
I'm
can't hear
sorry.
you, dear.
last month they had the SEAC meeting as usual, and pretty much they were discussing the summer program. And there was one thing that I wanted to mention tonight that a father said, because we hear, most of the time, sitting in this position, we hear a lot of negatives. But I was happy to hear this father stated the fact that Georgia Tyler Middle School had very positive statements about Georgia Tyler Middle School. Assisting his, well, it was actually a grandfather, assisting his grandson in all of his educational needs. And in doing so, he said his grandson is making a transition from Georgia Tyler over to the high school, and he has been very successful at Georgia Tyler, and he's been successful in his transition over to the high school. And I would like to thank this grandfather. I didn't get his first name, but his last name was Mr. Carr. He had very positive things to say about Wight County Public Schools and the staff of Georgia Tyler Middle School, Mrs. Buggs. Thank you.
I met with the Committee for Hardy Elementary. That's a group made up myself. I represent the board on that committee. Mr. Grice from the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Durig from the Planning Commission, Ms. Getz, Dr. Thornton, Our Director of Finance is there as well as Chris Coleman, our Director of Facilities. We were cutting we got bad news that because of the cost of materials, it brings up the project. So we sat down and we worked together to cut a little bit more than $3 million, I believe, off of the project to make sure we stayed within budget. So we looked at, a lot of times it was just trading out building materials, taking away corrugated metal for all brick. That way we didn't have to hire someone to come in to do the metal, plus the metal costs have gone up. And that was the main concern. We're hopeful that the prices do go down, and then we can possibly change back some things, but at this point, there were some changes made to the general plan, and that went before the Planning Commission as well, or will be going in front of the Planning Commission shortly.
Okay, thank you for that update. Do you have anything?
I'd just like to make a couple of comments about the Career and Technical Education Program. You've seen tonight a number of people speak about the CTE program, and I would just like to commend this administration for building the type of career and technical education program that we have in this division now. Dr. Thornton and his staff have done a tremendous job in bringing this program to the level that it is now, and it's second to none among many of the divisions around us.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say we attended the Senior of the Month celebration, where these selected seniors that we celebrate each month throughout the school year, well, those seniors came together and they paid tribute to a teacher who had touched their lives in powerful ways. And these 2 nights, one was at Windsor High School with all the seniors of the month at Windsor High School doing this, and then at Smithfield High School, they had picked one teacher and they shared heartwarming and at times emotional stories of how these teachers had truly touched their lives. And the stories from these few students told were just a few examples of what an incredible impact teachers have on students' lives. And it was just a blessing, but I knew where these were 20 teachers who was celebrated by 20 teachers. There's so many more untold stories. And I received an email a couple of weeks ago from a parent. Her name was Savannah Sundberg, and she's a parent of a West Side student, and she just went on and on and on about how her son's teachers, Margaret Davies and Amy Hurst, had gone above and beyond throughout this year to help her son experience school success like no other year. Now, we're talking the pandemic year, and this parent is just raving over what these 2 teachers had done for her son. So while this year has been a challenge, and no doubt it's been a challenge, there still have been many successes that we can celebrate.
Madam Chair, do you think that we might encourage our audience to stand with us and give a round of applause for the fantastic job our teachers are doing?
Yes. Dr. Thornton, did you have anything to share?
Yes, Madam Chair and board members. Madam Chair and board members, I'd like to address a few statements made at the last meeting by speakers in order to clarify misinformation that was shared. We often send letters back to the individuals who speak. However, they don't share that information. One is the FOIA lawsuits. The FOIA lawsuits continue to be brought up on a regular basis. The board has made changes to be as transparent as possible with all motions to go into closed session. The time of the meeting was an error in how the meeting was published, and it's been explained numerous times. There was not any intent to hide the starting time of the meeting. All of our meetings are recorded and put online each month for anyone to watch. There was no intent to violate any FOIA regulation, and the board and I did misunderstand some of the information shared from the FOIA Council in a letter. All closed session personnel reports were available for the public after the board voted. Therefore, there was no intent to hide anything from the public. We currently share the report publicly ahead of the meeting now to make it even easier for the public to have access. A couple other items that were brought up, and these have been brought up for several years in a row and answered the exact same way for several years in a row. The SOQ, Standards of Quality documents, were brought up, and the school board and I have signed off on these documents with the knowledge that staff has reviewed all the information, and we believe all information to be accurate. One example that continues to be brought forward is that CTE teachers are not getting a planning period. Many of the CTE teachers teach 2 double blocks and are paid an additional 1/4 of their pay to compensate them for a planning period either before or after school. This meets the state requirements. The other one on the SOQs was policies. Policy review continues to be brought up. When Ms. Cook was on the board, she recognized that many policies were way past due from previous school boards. This board took on certain sections of the very large policy manual each year and have reviewed all policies. The next accusation that has been brought up several years is that the school crisis plans have not been reviewed by board members. These do not have to be reviewed at a school board meeting. Mr. Coleman has worked closely with local and state police, as well as rescue and fire, to put together extensive plans at each school, and they are updated every year. The next was the accusations about graduation. An outdoor graduation had been planned in 2 time slots due to COVID restrictions, and a single graduation was planned as soon as the restrictions changed. As far as the yard signs, the principal had already ordered these as a surprise for seniors. A senior prom was also planned outside. Seniors have always had their senior dues applied for the breakfast at Smithfield High School. School board funds were used to pay for prom and all other graduation expenses at both high schools. I'm very proud of the efforts of both of my high school principals and staff to make this senior year the best possible under the circumstances. The other comments that are very frustrating, I think, to the entire staff. Wight County Schools was one of the only Hampton Road school divisions to open in person since day 1 of school. Middle and high school followed shortly behind. Many school divisions did not open until after March of this school year. I applaud our teachers and all staff that came to work during this very troubling time. Another one is budget and finance. We constantly hear the same thing, that we're not managing money well. How did the fiscal budget from 2016 to now 2022 increase from $59 million to $69 million? The federal increase during that time is about $875,000. The state increase during that time is about $8.5 million. The local increase to local taxpayers over the same 6-year period has been $1.5 million, or 6.2%. This is an average of 1% increase each year. Therefore, the state money has paid for the majority of raises, health insurance, and other increases with the cost of living over the last 6 years. This is the most fiscally responsible board and county board of supervisors that I've ever worked with. I'm proud of my entire staff. We run a $69 million business of educating, feeding, transporting, counseling over 5,000 students a year with over 700 employees. We are going to make some mistakes along the way. We always try to remedy any mistake and do the best we can for our students and families. We have a fully accredited school division and have upgraded our facilities to provide a better environment for our students while working closely with our local board of supervisors to keep county taxes down. And if you indulge me for one more comment from some of the comments I heard this evening. And I received some emails this morning that I responded to in a similar way. I just want to clarify. One, I know critical race theory is on people's minds. I know it's on the news every day. I see it on the news every day. I see Loudoun County, Virginia on the news every day, and I know that hits close to home. I don't know if you want me to answer this differently, but I've been pretty consistent how I answer this question, so I'm going to answer it again. We are not teaching students about equity and inclusion. Our focus in the training is for our staff to be aware of the diversity that we do have in Wight County and look for ways to provide the resources necessary to meet individual students' needs. We are focusing on any child if they are not performing well in our school. What I have found through the training is that I am more aware of all social identifiers which make our students and staff diverse. This is enabling me to be more cognizant when making decisions that affect many individuals. The training for teachers will take place over the first semester next year, and will examine our data through an equity lens and start to make plans to address achievement gaps that continue to persist. We are not asking teachers to implement anything into our curriculum or discuss any of these ideas with students. In fact, they will be instructed to use this training for their own awareness and not for anything else. Again, this training is just to inform teachers of the language around equity and diversity that is coming from the state and give them another lens to look at each student's needs. I agree that it is a parent's responsibility to discuss these topics with their children. Our guidance staff and teachers will be trained to direct students to their parents if they have questions about these topics. We are an educational entity. We believe in lifelong learning. The only way to address issues that continue to come down, we cannot wear blinders and pretend equity is not an issue in the world everywhere but Wight County. We have to educate ourselves on what that means, what the language is, look how it affects our students, and when I say intersect K through 12 education, that's what I mean is we are going to address equity as it pertains to our K through 12 education and not get involved in the bigger world of critical race theory. In fact, I hate to say, I heard the word critical race theory more tonight than I've ever used it and that I've heard in our school system. So if you want to keep critical race theory out, maybe don't bring it into the school system because we're not talking about it. Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is financial presentations. And Mr. Steve is not here, so
Yes,
Dr. Thornton, you're going
So
to.
I'm in charge of that tonight. Okay, where are we? Okay, so the check registry and our large ticket items. Are there any questions on any of that information?
I had no questions this month.
Okay, what is the next area? Okay, the next area is annual contracts. As you know, the board votes on any contract that is over $200,000. But we have continuing contracts with Chartwells, with Southeast Service Corporation, which is SSC, Virginia Association of Counties, which is VACOR, that does our insurance, and James River Solutions, which does our bus fuel. These are continuing contracts that are renewed every year. The board has already voted on these contracts, so I'm just bringing it forward tonight for information.
Okay.
Are there any questions on those contracts? Okay, next is the Isle of Wight County Schools payroll calendar, and this is an action item, and you have the dates for the payroll in your packet.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the attached payroll calendar for the 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and it has been seconded. Vote, please. Okay, motion carried. Next on the agenda is the lunch breakfast prices.
Yeah, so board members, in your packet is a sheet with recommended lunch prices. And if you see in there, there's a 10-cent increase on lunches. And this was to protect against inflation and the minimum wage that has increased. And the last time there was an increase, it was 10 cents in the 1920 school year. Also, I want to mention, we don't know the status of the free program at this point, and as we get more information, I'll let you know for next year if we're going to continue to have free breakfast and lunch. At this time, we are not sure.
This
But
would not apply to kids who want free and reduced lunch, correct? Because they already get free
Correct.
meals from us.
Correct. And so this also is an action item.
Yes. And there's no increase in the reduced rate.
No increase on reduced rate.
Okay, I need a motion.
Okay, Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion that we approve the 10-cent increase on lunch and just lunch, Dr. Thornton. The increase is lunch and breakfast or just lunch?
Lunch, breakfast.
It's breakfast and lunch.
Okay, the 10 cents increase for breakfast and lunch prices. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a motion.
I have a question, but how
Okay.
much is that a year if a child was buying lunch?
We need a second first.
I seconded.
Okay.
So how much would that be a year for a family buying lunch if they did not qualify for free and reduced?
Somebody better have a
Yeah,
calculator.
it would depend on how many lunches they get, but it would equate to like $18
For the year?
for one person.
For the whole year?
Yes, if they ate lunch for 180 days.
Okay. All right. Okay, that was my question.
I'd do quick math. Check me.
But it would be 30-something, $36 if they ate breakfast and lunch.
Okay, motion carried. Next on the agenda is the amendment to the food service budget.
Okay, Madam Chair, that's in the board packet as well, in the form of a memo from Mr. Kepnes. And the original budget for food service revenue and expenditures was just over $2 million. And because of the free breakfast and lunch program and serving more students, the more meals we served, the more reimbursement we got back from the federal government, to the tune of about $1.3 million more than what we normally spend and what we normally receive in our food service budget. So we need to ask the Board of Supervisors to amend our food service budget and add $1.3 million appropriation to that. And we need a vote to do that as well.
So we're not asking for more money. We have this money coming in. It's just got to go in this line item. I'm just trying to make it
Yes.
clear.
It's really for auditing purposes, so that it balances.
Madam Chair, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is a huge, different conversation than we were having a couple years ago
Yeah.
with our,
The deficit.
the
and lunches.
deficit. Now it's over $1 million plus.
Plus.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve an increase in food service budget in the amount of $1.3 million for the 2020-2021 school year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, and it has been seconded. Okay, motion carried. Next on the agenda is the support service, and we're going to begin with the transportation update.
Every time I fight with this thing, and it always wins, and I lose, so I took it off tonight. So good evening, everybody, and I just have to say five more days. So every month has an average of between 20, 28, and 31 days, except for the last month of school that has 1,732 days. But you have my report in front of you. I'm here to answer any questions you might have. One
No
thing I'd like to add, we're enjoying our new pavement. Dr. Thornton, you and I won't get our feet wet when we get out to put gas in our cars now, so it's beautiful. Thank you very much.
Mr. Livingston, I wanted to let you know that I suggested the next month we will come with our new attire.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
You need to talk in the mic, Ms. Tynes. We can't hear you.
I suggested that next month that we, the board, will come dressed in their new attire. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So if you care to wear yours that day, you're welcome.
Thank
you. Okay, next is the support services and operations full report. Dr. Thornton?
I'm going to take that one tonight, too. There's only 2 slides. I'll let you click, Eric. There's only 2 slides.
Sir.
All right, so first is the yearly inspection update that Mr. Coleman wanted to share with you, and you can see on that is pretty extensive list of inspections that happen and when they happen throughout the year, with fire alarms, fire sprinklers, backflows, kitchen hoods, elevators, everything. As you can see, Mr. Coleman has done a very, very good job with safety in the school division. I know I talked about safety a little earlier with the police. These are all fire things, and you will be getting the reports this summer on the schools and their safety plans as well. And next is the new Hardy Engineering meeting. This is coming up next week, June 24th. So Ms. Ulick will have another chance to look at and meet with the architects and the builders and talk about where we are with the cost of the building now that it's going to be 65% designed. After that meeting, the next time we'll meet will be 100% design, and we'll get, at that point, close to the guaranteed maximum price and have that discussion. So we're getting very close to the point of hopefully putting a shovel in the ground. But as Ms. Ulick stated, one of the things we're closely monitoring the construction company at this point is when do we buy materials? So they're looking at prices, whether it's steel or brick or lumber, and they have a very large warehouse to hold that. So as prices come down, they're then going to make very large purchases, even if it doesn't make sense as part of the construction timeline at that point. So we're looking at and trying to be creative to keep the price of Hardie down. And that is all that Chris had, if anyone had questions. That we took off. All right. Any questions?
No.
I have one question, Dr. Thornton. Mrs. Hewlett can answer that because she's on that committee. Can you pretty much maybe give us sort of projected or a tentative date, maybe when the shovel will hit the ground? For Hardie Elementary, the new Hardie Elementary?
Yeah, so we're hoping at the June 24th meeting that they'll be able to tell us a date or close to when that will happen. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And next is the report from the superintendent, starting with Title I, II, III, and IV grants. Ms. Cummings is on her way.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Thornton. I'm here tonight to ask you to approve the Title I, II, III, and IV grants that are before you. These grants, basically, there are no major changes from last year. The budgets that you see are based on last year's allocations. Our new allocations will come up late summer, early fall, and so unless you have any questions for me.
We can vote, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the Title I, II, III, and IV federal grants for the 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and it has been seconded. Vote, please. Motion carried. Next, we have the summer school update, and Ms. Cummings is going to present us with that information.
Yes, ma'am. So we are having our summer school for 2021 again at Windsor Elementary School, and our summer school this year will take place between July 6th and the 29th, Mondays through Thursdays. It will be, of course, half days. We are doing this summer a K-8 program again. Our target for student participation, it was 214, but we have a solid 200 students who we are anticipating attending.
This is larger than in the past?
Much larger, yes. Even before COVID, we would usually run about 100 to 110 students, so as you can see, it is much more in demand.
And we had enough teachers to apply?
Yes, we did barely.
Barely.
Barely. And there was lots of competition out there because, as you may know, the high school is also doing a program of their own. So we were kind of competing for teachers, so it got a little interesting. But we do have 15 classroom teachers. This year we're also having 2 special education teachers in particular that are joining us. We are having 2 reading interventionists joining us. And we also, which we're very excited about, we are going to have an EL teacher who is going to join us, and she is going to spend 90 minutes a day with, we have 11 EL students that we particularly invited, that she is going to spend that time with per day to focus on their progression learning the English language. Once again, we will be doing door-to-door transportation, and we will be serving breakfast and lunch daily like we have for a while now.
All right, that's a question I had, because in the past, our summer school, it wasn't door-to-door transportation. Is this the first year we've gone back to that? Did we do that last year? We did do it last year.
We have had
It was in previous years. Okay, so we started doing it again last year, which is good.
Yes. Our administrative team this year, Laura DeWeese from Hardy Elementary is joining us, Deb Oakes from Smithville Middle, and we have 3 interns this year, Nicole White, Lisa Meyer from Windsor Elementary, and Aubrey Ellis also from Windsor Elementary. So we will have a strong administrative team there to help support the teachers and the students. Our instructional focus this year is going to be, again, of course, math and reading. We have built a schedule where students will be receiving approximately 90 minutes of math and reading per day. The instruction will focus on mastery of grade level and prerequisite focus skills, both in whole group and small group settings. So that's where your reading intervention teachers and your special education teachers come in. They will be pushing into classrooms to help with those small groups.
I'm delighted to see that you all have enlarged the summer school program because I think it's definitely needed.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. We are still going to continue with our theme this year under the C, where it's not going to be, as thematic as before because we really are focusing on strengthening those just basic skills. But we'll throw some little marine life in there. Our reading curriculum, we are going with, it will be focused on the American Reading Company again, in that framework to expand their understandings of both fiction and especially nonfiction text, because that does tend to be a little bit tougher for students than the fiction. They will have an opportunity to read, research, and write about different marine life and their ecosystems, and they will also be presenting their research findings. Our math curriculum will be based on, or students will be, my little pointer's gone wacky on me. There we go. Maybe I shouldn't hold it. Students will use the math manipulatives such as pattern blocks, Cuisenaire rods, Unifix cubes. We will have all sorts of math manipulatives for them to use to make the math instruction much more hands-on and engaging. And students in kindergarten through 5th grade will also be using their ST math program daily. Students in 6th through 8th grade, we also work on algebra readiness skills with them in addition to the focus skills. And this year we are introducing a new program for the first time during summer that we are intending to continue during the regular school year, and that is for a program called Freckle. That is a Renaissance program. So if you have heard of our STAR 360 testing that we do with students, that is our growth monitoring tool and our predictor of SOL success, it takes that data from their STAR 360 test results, downloads it into Freckle. It builds a program for them that is adaptive. It differentiates both math and reading instruction. It builds an instructional program for the students that is interactive, differentiated for each student. And so we will be introducing that this summer to those students. It's going to be a little bit of our pilot program before our major rollout in the fall. Okay?
So is the Freckle all computerized?
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
like a program that child will go on, and the program is to meet their individual needs.
To meet their individual needs. There's an instructional component of the program, and then there's also built-in practice with goals in mind and incentives.
Okay.
So if there's no other, does anybody have any questions?
No. Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cummings.
You're welcome.
Okay, next is the annual reports of gifted education and local plan. So we're going to hear from Dr. Kale and Dr. Thornton.
Good evening. Am I in that thing? There we go, I think. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Thornton. I'm going to give you an update on our gifted numbers and options for this year. So screening, as you know, last year was interrupted, And also this year it was a little bit challenging with COVID, but impressed that we were still able to screen a similar number of students as we were last year. So we screened 86 students in grades K through 8. 30 of those students were eligible, and we now have 420 eligible gifted students K-12 in the division. Next year it is our intent to go back and screen second and third, and then fifth and sixth, and then we will redouble those efforts for testing to make up for the fact that we weren't able to do a large screener this year. Governor's School program, so 36 students in grades 2 through 6 applied for the 13 slots available in the Tidewater Regional Governor's School. That program will be held here at Georgie Tyler this summer. It's unusual that we have students apply to the residential governor's school. It is exceptionally competitive. It is housed at William & Mary, and we actually had 3 students apply this year, and 1 was accepted, so we're very, very excited about that. For Governor's School for Science and Technology, we had 25 students apply. 15 were accepted, bringing our total enrollment for the coming year to 22 students. And for Governor's School for the Arts, we had 30 students apply. 10 were accepted, which brings our total enrollment for the coming year to 27. We had 434 students participate in 13 different advanced placement courses. They cover everything from science, math, government, literature, and studio arts. And 432 students participated in dual enrollment. That includes English 12, math analysis, pre-cal, calculus, probability and statistics, marketing, and now also biology. So some interesting accomplishments for this year. When I contacted GSA about the number of students that actually applied versus how many got in and was looking for that breakdown, they said that they've noted that over the past 4 years, we have actually exceeded the number of allotted slots. So we're allotted 22. This year we have 27. And they said for the past 4 years, we just have a large number of very talented children coming out of Isle of Wight, and so when slots aren't given to other divisions, when they don't fill them, they're allocated to other divisions. So that was kind of neat to hear them say.
Yes.
We also increased our dual enrollment offerings this year. We added biology at Windsor High School, and we look forward to continuing that for the coming year. And our gifted research team has been meeting to discuss and revise our current gifted plan with the goal of ensuring a more diverse and inclusive student population. GIAC has met with us twice this semester. One, we got some feedback from them around our existing plan and some possible areas to consider for changes. And then also we followed up with them, and they've given us feedback on where we are so far.
All right, who is them? I didn't hear you.
GIAC, the Gifted Education
Okay.
Advisory Committee.
Okay.
And that's it.
You finished? I have a question. If you go back, I think one slide, that's the one. Of the 434 students taking the advanced placement classes or courses, and you have 432 students in dual enrollment, will any of those students overlap, like some in the advanced? Okay.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
was just wondering.
And it also doesn't, that's seats per course. So that may have a student that's only taking English 12. It might also include a student who's taking English 12, marketing, and biology.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Do the students at Windsor High School versus students at Smithfield High School, is there a big discrepancy for the opportunities at one school versus the other? Or are they basically the same?
I would say there's a big discrepancy. You know, there are courses that are available at Smithfield High School that aren't available at Windsor High, but the same is true the other way around. So, for example, DE marketing is something that we do at Smithfield High, but DE biology is only available at Windsor High. So I wouldn't say there's more opportunity, there's just different opportunities.
Can we improve on that?
We can get a breakdown to actually look at that.
Okay.
We have done a transcript study for our teachers at the high school level in working with Paul DeCamp to see what opportunities there are. And so a lot of that just comes down to staff having enough credits post-master's degree in a specific field. And that's the real challenge, is getting people
Yeah,
that
I
are
knew it
certified.
had been. I didn't know if we had gotten a little better with that, but.
We've evaluated, I think, almost every transcript that Cheryl and I worked together to get that done through Paul DeCamp at the beginning of last year. So, something we're always revisiting. questions? I think Dr. Thornton's going to talk.
Yeah, I need someone to click for me. So the gifted committee that met, I just wanted to share the individuals who served on that. We had Wayne Briggs from Smithfield High School, Jennifer Smith from Westside and Smithfield Middle School, Cheryl Fortner from Westside, Brandy Robbins from Carsville, Shantae Denson from Hardy Elementary School, Ellen Couch from Windsor Elementary School, Elizabeth Everett from Carrollton, Kiana Jones from Central Office, Tiffany Truitt from Smithfield High School, Natalie Street from Carrollton, and then Lynn Briggs, Marsha Kale, and Mike Lombardo from Central Office. And they shared a lot of ideas with the Central Office team about identification for the future, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. They also shared ideas for new services. And one of the things that came through loud and clear is to get more opportunities for students to be identified, that they would want to do push-in grades K through 2 for all students to be exposed to some gifted lessons. And I'll elaborate on that as well. And the new plans for next year, I'm going to discuss some of that with you, and then future research on items that we're not ready yet to proceed next year. So first is 2 gifted teachers at each elementary school except for Carsville. And this is to do the push-in that I just explained, pushing in K through 2 for all students to be exposed to gifted lessons. And these are going to be in science, exploratory, and nature. And the principals will work with their gifted teachers to how often this will occur, and depending on the size of the school.
And this won't be like a resource. It will be like where the teacher and the gifted teacher are working together, and when they push in?
Yes, and they'll push in and do a gifted lesson in science exploration.
Okay.
And then in grades 3 through 5, the gifted teachers will actually teach math with a STEM theme to a gifted cluster of students. And what that gifted cluster of students means, there might be 6 students, say, in Hardy Elementary School in 3rd grade identified gifted. And so the teacher's going to teach 15 to 18 students. So there'll be a rubric for those students to be placed in the class and actually teach math, the standards of learning for math in that grade level, with a STEM theme. And the next slide shows kind of the format for that, which is nothing more than the instructional framework that we ask everyone to do. So a short lesson in direct instruction, and then you'll see students then break into 3 groups. The Freckle software that Laura just talked about, self-paced. And that's really important with gifted education. So the teacher's going to do a pre-assessment. If the students in that class have already mastered, let's say, 5 of the standards in 3rd grade SOLs, the teacher's not going to teach that standard. Why would you do that?
Right.
And then they're also going to be self-paced and be able to progress at their own pace. Then there'll also be the teacher meeting with them in small groups to differentiate their needs, and then a PBL STEM themed lesson where students will have voice and choice as well. And this is the model that we want for all instruction, but this is what we're looking at, and this is different than what we've done. As we researched what was done in each school, it was just far different in every school. We wanted some consistency, and we thought math and STEM was a good theme. During the projects, they'll have to write about the projects, they'll have to do presentations, so we'll still bring in a lot of our reading skills as well.
Now that 3, 4, and 5 cluster, will that be at Carsville too?
Yeah, so we're still working with Pam at Carsville with how we're going to do that, because there's only 2 teachers there per grade. And so we're still trying to fine-tune how we're going to do this at Carsville. So we'll update you on that.
Okay.
And then middle school, the media specialists will actually do pull-out 3 times a week with the gifted students to work on a community-based, project-based learning unit. And again, this will have student voice and choice. What are some things our students can work with the community, research in our community, and assist our community in? And this uses all kinds of creativity and critical thinking skills. And with this, we're able to move the gifted teachers we have in middle school down to elementary school. We will still have to hire 3 additional gifted teachers for this to work. And as we looked at this, and actually with an equity lens, we haven't done anything for our gifted program the entire time I've been here, and I don't know how many years before. We keep doing the same thing. I've said it myself. I'm guilty of saying it. Oh, those kids are bright. They'll soar in spite of us. Well, that's not what we're supposed to do. If we're meeting the needs of all students and where they are, we're not supposed to have a ceiling for any student. We're supposed to take them to the next level. So this is investing in, and you often hear some of the things we hear with equity. We're taking away. So we're going to take away from certain students to give it to other students. No, we look at it as adding to. Adding resources wherever we need it. If it's remediation, if it's for acceleration, whatever it is, adding to. So I'm asking the board to invest in this program, 3 new positions. We can do it through attrition, and so that's why I wanted to move forward with this. Next slide. The future committee work was going back to identification. The committee wanted to use reading and math achievement tests as well as a general intellectual test. And general intellectual is more of a IQ type test. And they feel like if we use reading and math achievement tests, that may give us a broader range of students that may qualify. But they're still researching this. We're not ready to implement this, so we'll research it next year, and possibly by the spring of next year, maybe make this recommendation.
But it gives a hard-working student the opportunity that maybe they haven't had before.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, middle and high school talked a lot about the fine arts and CTE. We have many gifted students in those areas, as you could see with the Governor's School of the Fine Arts and how many students we have. But giving students earlier on an opportunity. They did a lot of talking about this and researching, but again, we have to do more research to what does a gifted student look like in the arts or in music or in CTE? And do they just meet the minimum requirements of CTE? Or what is a gifted culinarian? What is a gifted welder? So we're going to research that further, and we'll be bringing recommendations for those levels as well, because in high school, we generally have the governor's school programs, and we have AP and dual enrollment. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at expanding opportunities for students in the area of gifted. And I will say the committee, they did not bring a recommendation of how to provide the services, like with math. They were still working on that, but they did such a great job presenting to the executive team. We sat down afterwards and then with principals and brainstormed about how to service better and provide more. So that's where the elementary plan came in and the middle school plan came in, and we're hoping to implement that this fall.
Was this the committee that the parents were involved? I know we had.
No, this is the school committee.
The school committee.
And we'll be presenting this to the GIAC
okay.
as we move forward. And even this is I think a step in the right direction, and bringing a theme to what we're doing. And then we'll assess how we did in a year. And there was some thought of, we're coming out of a pandemic. Should we just go back and do what we've done with gifted in the past? And we talked about it and said, if we have the resources available and we can make a change now and we can do it, let's do it. Let's not waste another year. We weren't ready for the identification. We're not ready for fine arts and CTE, but we feel like we can do these other areas. So that's why we're making this recommendation to move forward.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I request a 5-minute recess?
Sure. 5-minute recess.
What time?
I am freezing. It's getting cold in here. No, I'm not freezing, but it is getting cooler in here.
So you may want to be aware if you're traveling back north, and there is water on the road, so just be careful as you go home this evening.
There's water on 258.
Okay, we're going to reconvene. The next item on the agenda is the annual SHAB meeting. Ms. Elliott and Dr. Kale.
Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We
I'm
missed the
sorry. Let's do that. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
VHSL.
The
We're just so-
VHSL membership
so excited.
application.
To hear about SHAB. So excited.
This is just an approval for VHSL, the application for both high schools.
You need action?
Yes.
It's an act, yes.
Action.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Ooh, hold up. I'm not even up.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the VHSL applications for the 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and it has been seconded. Vote, please. Okay, motion carried. Next is the annual SHAB meeting.
All right, good evening again, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Thornton. Ms. Elliott unfortunately hurt her knee today, and so she was unable to be here with us tonight, so I'm going to present the annual update for SHAB. It supports our priority number 5, ensuring a safe, healthy, and inviting learning environment for all students. We held meetings at the beginning of the year throughout the district in August to discuss mitigations and strategies related to the COVID pandemic and how we could best support students and staff as safely as possible during that time. The SHAB committee met on May 14th to discuss impacts on student health and well-being as related to the COVID pandemic. Some challenges that were noted, parents were able to opt out of our standard health screenings, so as a result, some of those screenings were missed. Driver education and family life were addressed first in our PE classes, so there wasn't as much emphasis on the physical aspect of PE. Some students didn't have access to be able to view the videos or to Zoom directly with their teacher. Students commented that they can't run as fast or lift as much right now as they could before the pandemic. And so we had to be real creative when they were in school around equipment and wiping it down and those sorts of things. Meals were provided for free for all students to satisfy FDI guidelines, but there's been a lack of fresh produce as a result of the bus distribution kind of thing. So it's hard to determine if meals are being consumed by all students as well. Parents have reported that their kids seem mentally down. Some direct services to students were limited. They didn't have that daily access to the guidance counselor in the same way, or a counselor to really see and notice that something was frustrating to a student, which was also frustrating for teachers and counselors. So we talked about some creative measures that we used throughout the year to try to address these things. Free meals were offered daily to in-person students and served in the classroom or an environment where they could socially distance. There was a consistent 5-day meal pickup offered to all students. That was the Friday meal deliveries. Nurses reached out to individual families to either encourage them to come in for those screenings or to walk them through doing it themselves at home. And then PE teachers even tried to help students learn first aid and CPR using pillows or stuffed animals or things that they could find around the house to kind of practice the compressions and that sort of thing. So they were real out-of-the-box thinkers. Going forward, we'd like to use the farm or the greenhouse as a means to offer access to locally grown fresh fruits and vegetables, offer tasting tables so that students are being exposed to those different flavors, videos and signage to highlight healthy meal choices also throughout our cafeterias and buildings. A survey of students to find out what they actually want in their meals, because we think, well, if we can get what they want, maybe we can give healthy options and more consumed. And so we did that, and several expressed that they understand that USDA requires us to provide milk, but they'd really like us to also provide small bottles of water at lunch. Okay. One idea that we had to kind of heighten awareness around student health was to offer a student family wellness day, perhaps at the fairgrounds, partnering with Parks and Rec and the YMCA to feature local opportunities, food tasting, health screenings, dental services, mental health services, information and resources connecting our community partners. So that's where we are right now, and SHAB will meet again in the fall. Okay. Any questions?
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the transgender policy update.
Madam Chair and board members, as you are aware, Virginia Code 22.1-23.3 was enacted in 2020, and that statute requires the VDOE to develop model policies concerning the treatment of transgender students in public schools. We've talked about at previous meetings those model policies and what they cover, and they're in your packet. I'll just go over just a couple of them. It talks about compliance with applicable non-discrimination laws, a safe and supportive learning environment, prevention of bullying, harassment, maintenance of student records, etc. Oops. My policy went off here for a second, sorry. We have heard from VSBA that does our board policies, and they have identified 15 policies that address the various topics listed in section 22.1-23.3. So in your packet, I've shared those policies, and the first 11 of them have very few changes. If you go through them, we highlighted the changes for you. Mostly, it is adding the new state code to the requirement. And so if you see, AC is non-discrimination. We have non-discrimination of students already. So now just by putting the code, it meets the requirement. So all of the very few changes in those policies, along with the next 4, which were not changed, if you group those 15 together, it meets the requirement of the new law. So we do not have to have a separate transgender policy. They fall under these 15 other policies that protect all students. And so we're not required to adopt the language that the Virginia Department of Education has developed. And I'm recommending that we do not adopt their language, and I talked about some of that language and why I don't think we should adopt it. And one of the biggest issues that continues to happen, and I wanted to clarify, is the bathroom issue. And so we will be identifying single-user, non-gender bathrooms in each school for any student to access. We will continue to work with families on an individual basis as the need presents itself. But I do want to make the board aware and the public aware, though, that Virginia law right now is clear that transgender students can use the bathroom in which they identify if they choose to do so. That is the law right now. So we're providing these other facilities. We're working with families, but I want to make it clear that that is the law. And so next month, we'll be putting these policies up for first read, and then the following month for adoption. And if we do that, we will be ready to start school and meet the code.
Are we going to have any kind of workshops to go to look at those policies, those identified policies where the statute's been added, to clarify this is what it's saying and this is what you need to do based on this policy?
We can provide that. If you'd like to schedule a workshop,
I would think that would
then
be
we can
of value.
go
I
through
don't know.
each policy and what that means and why.
I don't know how the board feels about it, but I do.
I concur.
Okay, I will set something up.
Okay. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is the SY school year 21-22 school board meeting dates.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the SY 2021-2022 meeting dates as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and it has been seconded. vote. Okay, motion carried. Next on the agenda is action on closed session items, and we're going to begin with the personnel report.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the personnel report as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and it has been second. Vote, please. Okay, motion carried. Next on the agenda is the superintendent's evaluation and contract. We're going to start with a motion. It's going to be second, and then we can begin discussion.
Madam Chair, I move that the amendment to the superintendent's contract that was proposed in closed session be adopted. Need a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Eric, can you pull up Ms. Tynes' slide?
Yes, I have something I would like to say to the general public. It's just by
Well, let me begin the
Okay,
discussion in
wait,
general then
okay.
while we wait. And when we look at the contract, and we constantly evaluate people throughout the district, we evaluate our teachers and their pay scales, we evaluate our aides, we evaluate anyone who works for the county. We've been evaluating and making sure they have salaries that are comparable to other districts, that are competitive to other districts. It's important, if you want the best, you have to be able to retain the best as well. This year was, I think we can all admit, a crazy year. With Dr. Thornton's leadership, we have done so much more than so many other school districts with a lot less. We've opened our schools, starting with the younger kids, and we maintained virtual schooling for the families that felt that was the safest for them. We let our families lead and guide us together, so we could grow effectively as a division. This is not something most divisions did. Most divisions locked themselves down completely, and again, didn't open till March. We had CTE students still coming in, getting certifications, getting jobs, where other divisions, again, do not have this happening. And again, you have to have a solid, strong leader. And Dr. Thornton's vision, along with his experience, helped guide us through a very difficult time for any school division. We met and we looked at the comparables, and I think Ms. Tynes is going to talk about the pay of other divisions that are comparable to ours. Obviously, we have some bigger divisions around us, and those wouldn't be numbers we'd be specifically using to determine salary. But we did look at places like Surrey, Gloucester. Those places are comparable in size. Surrey's actually 1,000 students and was making significantly more with 2 years' experience. So we do have to take that into consideration, into account when we're moving forward. The board is recommending a 13% raise for Dr. Thornton. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it was, I think I yeah.
Okay.
Do-
If we
do
can't
you-
pull it up, I'll just read it off.
Yes. Okay.
Mrs. Hewlett just, she just mentioned a few of the things For instance, the county of Gloucester, which is very close to Isle of Wight County in size as far as students, and the county of Gloucester, the superintendent there is earning $202,445 and with 5,000 students. Surrey County, which is neighboring, $175,000 with 1,000 students, and I understand the superintendent there, the years of experience is less than 5 years. Southampton County, $169,950 with 2,600 students, and the city of Franklin, $165,000 with 1,000 students. And I guess some of you would say, well, how come you didn't do Newport News or the city of Newport News, the city of Suffolk, because they are neighboring jurisdictions as well. Of course, the key word is city. They have more students, more buildings and everything, and of course, the superintendents there is going to get an enormous amount. I'm not going to say enormous, but they're more money, much more. We compared Dr. Thornton, we compared Isle of Wight County and Dr. Thornton's salary with those jurisdictions, the size of ours, pretty much, and the school district, the schools, the same amount of schools. Now, Isle of Wight County, I think we have 9 schools here, including the CTE program and everything. None of these schools had that many buildings per se. And the board, we thought about this. It wasn't just something out of their head. And just as Mrs. Hewlett said, we have gone through something major this year that we have never experienced before, and he brought us through. I'm proud to say that Isle of Wight County was one of the school districts that kept their schools open, and the only other one in our region, I think, I could be wrong, was the city of Chesapeake. Thank you.
So we are proposing the 13% raise to Dr. Thornton's salary effective, I believe, July 1.
Madam Chair, I'd like to point out another, what I believe is a major accomplishment since Dr. Thornton's been here, and that is the CTE program, the Career and Technical Education program. Dr. Thornton came, we were in the district with Suffolk and at the Prudence Center, and he had the foresight to establish a CTE program here in this division, which I think is second to none in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It is a fantastic program and it's very diversified with the farm, with the culinary arts, with the welding program, and the cooperation that we've had with the private sector, people in those enterprises that have assisted with the program has been phenomenal. And I think it's I think the board did a pretty good job.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Before we go further, Mrs. Ruitt.
Oh, did I get wrong?
Reverse the 2.
Oh, sorry.
Because I read the motion. Thank you.
So it's Tynes and Hill. Thank you.
And I just want to reiterate how much we have done to see that our salaries, whether it be the teachers or the building administrators or the central office administrators, we have really done a lot of work making sure that our staff's salaries are at a comparable rate to those divisions around us, and we need to do the same for our superintendent. And that was a significant reason why we felt like that this raise was necessary.
And I understand, like some people will say, well, why didn't you do it earlier? The superintendent's evaluation is done. We do it in May. We review it in June. His contract comes up in July. So this is why we do it at this time of year and not during the budgetary process in the beginning, because we haven't done his evaluation yet. And it wouldn't be fair to do contract negotiations before a proper evaluation is done.
You ready for a vote?
I'm ready for a vote.
Okay, we have a motion. It has been seconded. Vote, please. Motion carried. Next is the adoption of the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as attached and presented.
Second.
Do we have a motion? It has been second. Motion carried. Next on the agenda is the policy updates and revisions.
There's a lot of reading.
You read them all. That was 2 days worth of reading. You ready for an
This
action?
is the second read.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an action item for the second read.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to approve the attached policies for second read.
Second.
Okay, motion made, and it has been second. Vote, please. Okay, motion carried. Next is the board member request and comments.
Yes, I have one, Madam Chair. I did have a nice little speech prepared for tonight, but I decided not to do that speech because I wanted to say something positive, and I've had a positive day, and I want to continue to be positive. Normally, during this time, I thank our staff for the great job they have done, and I want to continue thank all of you, everyone, for the great job you have done this school year. But most important, I would like to thank the people that normally do not get thanks from us, and they're the parents. This year, last August, we all sat at Westside Elementary School, and we had speaker after speaker, parents coming, and they had concerns. We had expertise there in the medical field that brought information to us, and we had a whole lot. Since then, the parents, they came together. They joined in with us and helped us this year to raise their children. Not raise their children, but teach their children, because they are going to continue to raise their children, but to teach their children. And I would like to thank them for a job well done. I don't think we lost any, because I haven't heard staff, Mrs. Guest hasn't told us any about losing any of the students by the wayside, meaning we're just going to give up. At the beginning, some of the parents said it was rough, but after a while, we stopped getting complaints from parents. We all made it through this. Hopefully, we will never see this again during our lifetime, but just in case,
Amen.
keep all of your little iPads, laptops, and everything dust off, parents, because Dr. Thornton can just push a button and say, hey, my parents are ready to go. Thank you, parents. Thank you. You did a wonderful job. And when I say parents, that includes anyone in the family or anyone that sat down with these students and helped educate them during this pandemic. Thank you very much.
Well said, Denise. Well said.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins.
I want to focus on something really quick because I know the storm and the weather, so I'm kind of cutting in half what I actually want to say. But there's a misunderstanding of what equity and inclusion looks like in our community. Okay? Equity does not mean we are focusing on people's negatives and telling them they cannot be successful. Equity is about having a room full of kids, one doesn't have a pencil, and you hand them the pencil. Not everyone needs a pencil. So you give the kid who needs a pencil. Now they have an equitable chance at being successful. That's what it's about, giving everyone an equal start. Your success is still based on what you do and the choices you make. We believe in personal responsibility as a board, and I don't think that would change anytime soon. But equity is about making sure everyone starts at the same place so they have an equal opportunity for success. And that's what we want for our students in our school, to be able to start in the same place so they all have an equal opportunity for success. And I hate that this word equity is getting dragged through the mud like it's something bad or evil. It's not taking away from your ability or skill to make sure someone starts at the starting line with you. The Olympics, we don't start someone 2 feet back because they're taller. You start at the same spot, and it's only right that we do that in education with our students. And as for the inclusion aspect, our schools should be a place where everyone feels loved and safe and that they can do their best work. If you don't feel safe in an environment, you are never going to do your best work. You are never going to be able to achieve your maximum potential if you don't have an equitable start and the feeling that you actually can achieve and do those things and that you are part of this school community. That is what the inclusion and equity is about. It's not about teaching something or corrupting minds. It's about giving an equal start to everyone. And if you don't understand what it's like to not have an equal start, that could be the biggest problem. It's the empathy and the understanding that not everyone has an equal start. That's all I'm saying. I mean, you don't know my whole life story, and I don't expect you to. But not just because you see where someone is right now doesn't mean they had an equal start to someone else in the same place. Some people have to work harder. But it's taking away some of that hardship if we can start them equally, and that means giving equity. I think that's very clear about what the difference between equity and equality. We want all students to have an equal opportunity, but to do that, we need to have equity within our schools for those students to have those opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I just want to say the next few days are big ones. We've got Smithfield High School graduation, Windsor High School graduation, and I think we have the retirement celebration next Monday night. So it's a lot of fun things coming up. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Everyone drive safe.